Director and designated federal officer, and it's my pleasure to announce the official opening of our proceedings today and to introduce our chairman, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What a great day God has made, right? Amen. It's my honor to be the chair of this historic commission. The president appointed me to serve as chair, and he appointed an outstanding committee of members that we will introduce to you very shortly. For those of you here for the first time in the audience or watching for the first time, this is our second hearing. The first hearing was focused last June on our founders and what was it that they truly intended for us to have in the Bill of Rights through the First Amendment. This magnificent inheritance that they handed down to generations that some have tried to take away from us. For well over 100 years, religious liberty thrived and was strong in this country. And then after World War II, pretty much is when it began, the courts started chipping away at all of our rights. In fact, had it not been for the Supreme Court at the time and other courts that follow, we would still have much of the religious liberty that we so cherish and our founders gave us in the First Amendment. It was signed in December 15th, 1791 as the very First Amendment. No establishment of a government religion, and to give us free exercise of our religious rights. And this committee and the president understands that if you can take away religious liberty, you can take away every right that we have. And that was so clear in our first hearing with our witnesses and our great questions from our committee members. There was a time in this country when you could have a nativity scene in the town square and not worried about being sued. You could have a symbol in front of your home. The coach knew when to pray, and that was any time he wanted at school. And a student was not denied their rights of prayer. And men and women in our military had the right to pray as they chose. But no longer. So the president said we must restore religious liberty in this country and make sure that every citizen, that's an applause, and make sure that every citizen understands those rights. And that's part of what our commission is. We will bring a report to the president next spring. We have several more hearings after this one. Today we are focusing on education, and we'll be doing so in 3 more weeks. We'll be here. In November we go to Dallas for a hearing on religious liberty in our military. And then in Florida we will go, in February rather, we'll go to Florida because the weather might be a little difficult here in Washington. And we will continue and then give the president a report for either executive orders or legislation that he may recommend Congress pass. But one of our goals is to make sure America knows their rights. We know the phrase that no one should become between a doctor and a patient. Well, the president believes, and we believe, no one should come between God and a believer. We know that if you're sick, no one would say, don't go to the doctor. And no one should say to someone who's troubled and lost and searching that you cannot search for God. No one in government or the private sector should tell you when to pray, where to pray, or who to pray to. We are primarily a Christian nation, but this committee represents all faiths because that's what our founders intended, people of all faiths. So this is our second hearing, and we will be graced in about an hour or so by the President of the United States, who will come and deliver a major address. And then we will proceed with our hearing after that, and we'll give you a little bit more details after the President speaks. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to introduce several witnesses, children, parents, teachers, who have been denied their rights and pretty much in some cases pushed out of school because of their faith. And then after the President speaks and we take a break and reset the stage, we'll come back and then we will start our questions of those witnesses and have more witnesses throughout the day. So in our first hearing, I ask every member of the committee to have brief opening remarks, 3 or 4 minutes or so. And 3 of our members who are here today